Hello, and welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm casing one of my cards, which is this jungle card that I made previously, and I used Copic markers. This time I'm going to recreate the card using watercolor. This video is part of a hop with the Card Hoppin group on Facebook, and we're members of the Handmade Happiness group, and once a month we challenge each other to make a card with certain specifications. So each month we have a theme and then a challenge to use one of two techniques. So this month we had to case ourselves and recreate a card that we use markers with and do it in watercolor, or do one that we did in watercolor and do it in markers. The card I'm doing is actually a pretty simple design. I originally did it to Smash My Stash, and this is just showing how you can get a completely different look using a few different supplies. It's also challenging me to use watercolor, which I don't normally do. Now I'm using a embossing folder, and I just rubbed it with some distress ink. Now I didn't really like that it didn't get enough coverage on it, so now I'm just going over with my blending tool to add some more ink, and I'm using Tumbled Glass Distress Ink. So you saw my first card was pretty bright, so this one I'm doing monochromatic with blues. First of all, I'm getting a small piece of watercolor paper to stamp my images. And I'm using stamps from Lawn Fawn's Critters in the Jungle, which are the same stamps I used in the original card. I haven't done any actual watercoloring in a long time. I don't have any watercolor paints, but I'm using these watercolor pencils from Stampin Up. Now the first one I did was the zebra, and I stamped that with the navy blue ink, and it seemed to go fine. But now that I did my lion, I noticed that the blue is running into the gray, which is what I'm trying to paint with. So I found out the Stampin Up did not work with watercolor. So going on to Plan B. Plan B is to stamp my images with distress ink and emboss it with some clear embossing powder, because the embossing powder will seal the ink and keep it from bleeding. I didn't have any black ink that would be able to be embossed, so I'm using some black distress ink, which is black soot. Now I could have also used a blue, because you can use any shade of distress ink and use clear embossing powder. Then I decided to go ahead and stamp my sentiment while I had my embossing heat tool out. So I went over with my embossing buddy so that the embossing powder wouldn't stick to the card, and stamped my sentiment with distress ink. And the sentiment says, "Have a roaring good birthday." But then I forgot to put the embossing powder on it, and it actually did heat set it. Oh well, the recipient doesn't know I meant to emboss it. Next, I watercolored my images. I don't actually have real pan type watercolors, but I do have watercolor pencils, which these are from Stampin Up, and there's other brands of those also. I also have some Tombow Mono markers, which you can use for watercolor, but I decided to use the pencil since I haven't used them for a while, and also since the last card I used markers, I wanted to use the pencil since that would be a little different. Here you can see the roughness of the paper. The pencil is showing up on that. So I just put down some of my color, and I'm trying to go around the darker areas with the pencil, and then I'll bring in the water. So on the line I'm doing a dark black, and then I'll add gray for his body. So I wanted to use blue and grays so that the card will look different and it'll be kind of more of a muted look. And that's what I associate with watercolor. For the zebra, I'm using the black pencil for his hooves, and I accidentally put it on the tail and then remembered I wanted to do it in blue. So for his stripes, I'm doing in the lighter blue, and for his mane and tail, I use the darker blue. Besides showing you how this gives you a different look with the animals, you don't have to stick to a certain color for any particular animal. I still think it turns out really cute with the blue, and then you can customize the card for the recipient and do their favorite colors. Then I'm just adding some gray in the white areas where the light would be darker, so underneath his belly and where his legs meet his body. So it gives it a little bit of shading, and I'll get him a little bit more dimension. Then I'm using the same colors on the giraffe as I did the zebra. So I'm using the darker blue on his horns and tail, and I'm using the lighter blue on his spots. And then I'll use the black on his hooves. I don't really have any skills as a watercolorer. I've never taken any classes in it, so this is actually good for all of us who are beginners and just want to try different mediums. You don't have to be an expert, you just color it how you like and have fun with it. Then of course I'm adding some gray on his hooves, and then I'll add some shadowing just like I did with the zebra. I'm adding some pink to their cheeks. I'm not really good at that, even with Copics. I'm kind of trying to learn where the cheeks would be, but I decided to add it because I like it when other people do it on their cards, so the more I try it, the better I'll get. I'm using the same zebra washi tape as I did on my original card, and then I'm going to put some bright blue washi tape on either side instead of the red tape that I used on the original. And you can see how that still makes it pop, but has a different look. For the inside of the card, I'm just stamping the sentiment, "I'm wild about you," in black ink. And I actually got it a little bit crooked, but I decided not to worry about it because these are handmade cards, and I don't think my recipient's gonna care about that. Then I went ahead and stamped my rhino in a light blue and some grass in a navy blue to carry the theme from the outside of the card. And I think adding the animal helps draw your attention away from the crooked sentiment. And I'll actually probably give this to a preschooler, so I don't think they'll care. Then I'm just using my Scotch ATG gun to attach my panel to my card base. You could also use glue, and the good thing about using glue is you can move it a little bit if you don't quite line it up correctly. But I'm running low on my Nouveau glue, so I'm using my Scotch ATG gun. Then I'm taking some white circles I had cut out of paper in my stash, and I'm going to keep the watercolor theme going and use some distress ink to watercolor my circle. On the original, I used color paper. I'm going to add some liquid stardust to it. Since this is a plain card, I want to add a little pizzazz to it. And I'm just going to mix in some water with my liquid stardust and my black soot ink. So if you don't have watercolor, another thing you can do is use distress ink. So you can see I'm making it into a watercolor. Then I'm doing the same thing with two other circles, and I'm using Salty Ocean Distress ink for those. I'll make a list of all the products I'm using in the description below. Some of these products may no longer be available because some of these have been in my stash quite a while. And also some of these will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I get a small percentage of each sale that the links generate, and that helps support my website. Now I'm using some Nouveau Deluxe glue to attach the circles and images to my card. I'll leave a link to all the people in the Hop in the description below. Please hop along and show each of these creators some support and watch their video and give them some likes and some comments. And if you're not already subscribed, we would all appreciate if you subscribe to our channels. Then I add some crystal stickles to the manes, horns, and tails of the animals, and then I add some silver stickles around for some extra embellishment. I think the stickles takes the card to the next level. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I really would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, and that way you don't miss any future videos. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.